Hello survivors and welcome to another Walking Dead Road to Survival video, and in this video I'm going to be going over a starter guide for Thanksgiving Sophia. Basically how I would approach gearing her out, trying to get the best out of her kit. She's very strong pretty much regardless of what you do, but if you want to make her as strong as possible, get through teams a little bit quicker, get points quicker, that's how it all works. If you want to check out how she mechanically works, I went through her in my preview video. You can check out a link in the top right hand corner. In this video we're going to be talking about things like where you need to get her skills to for her to be actually good tier, which ones are worth upgrading on her passives, the combat mods we're going to use, potential weapons, and kind of strategies to use actually in a fight. So when it comes to Sophia, I would say limit break 3 is kind of where you want to go to, and it's mainly because of the signature move. The rush gets as powerful as it can be on limit break 2, which is actually pretty good. But limit break 3 is where you get the best out of the signature move, where you can get that initial 800% hit on the first turn, which is what's going to bring you the follow-up most of the time. If you don't get that follow-up on turn 1, you can naturally get a turn 2 rush. You can have other characters that can command you, so on and so forth. So it isn't necessarily the end of the world, but this is such a good signature move. You want to utilize it as much as possible. But it's not just about the damage, it's being able to remove buffs when you do the signature move. It's so nice against particular characters that have big defense buffs. However, we're going to talk about the passives and which ones are worth upgrading, and it is pretty much all of them. As you can see, the only one that you don't have to upgrade fully is going to be Cunning, and this is because her Adrenaline Rush doesn't proc Cunning when she attacks, and neither does her signature moves. Neither of them has the potential to proc weapons, so Cunning will never come into effect there. It will only be her basic attacks, and she does a basic attack very often, or when she's attacked. Now, she gets attacked by walkers more than anything else. When she comes up against humans, most humans on defense teams have on defense things on their weapons, not on attack. It's very rare. There might be some potential like road maps, or maybe even if she gets involved in faction assault in the future where that might change, so it might be worth maxing it out. For the time being, making it 9 out of 20 where you don't use any of the more rarer trainers is generally absolutely fine. The rest you want to max out though. The bonus attack against characters with bonus HP is really important. The AP gain when you come up against medics is quite important too, and so is the attack bonus when you're coming up against those medics. Again, quite important. All of those things added together is what makes Thanksgiving Sophia the absolute monster that she is. I would say if you wanted to say if any of those particular passives were more important than the others, I would say you probably would want to max out the bonus HP one first, in my opinion. Now when it comes to Thanksgiving Sophia's mods, it would 100% be attack set, because she cannot crit on her signature move and she cannot crit on her rush. So you want to be doing pure damage, get the attack stat up as high as possible. This means just going to the attack set and then putting in the best of the best attack mods you have in the top left hand corner. In this case, I have a Pyro mod. If you have one, I would definitely utilize it on Sophia. She's one of the most potent damage dealers in the game for sure. Then we move on to the top right. I would say pretty simple. First choice is going to be attack versus alert, just because there are a lot of alert characters around there right now, and obviously the most powerful defense teams, generally speaking, have had alert characters in them at the time, for the moment. The highest possible percentage you have, if you have 55%, like I have, great. If you have higher, awesome. If you have a Paragon mod, even better. Definitely, again, like I say, she's a character to utilize all the Paragon mods you have. Now, these two are quite obvious in my opinion. These are the definites. The rest is kind of, up to what you want to do. The bottom right-hand corner, you want to go for a resist that you're most likely going to come up against. Now, remember, she can't proc weapons with her signature move, and she can't proc weapons with her Adrenaline Rush. However, things can be proc'd on the other team by your teammates. For instance, if you have a teammate attack someone like Skelly Steve, he can confuse Sophia. If someone attacks Kyle, I think it is, he can impair Sophia. So you've got to be, wary of these sort of things, whether, how you attack a team, and just the potential of Sophia just getting randomly controlled if you attack the wrong character. However, when it comes to Sophia, I think there's a pretty easy choice. It's going to be Taunt Resist in the bottom right-hand corner. And this is just because there are quite a few characters and defense teams that have Taunt off of turn 1. You've got the likes of Vance, You've also got Peacekeeper. And while you might consistently be able to take these characters out turn 1, sometimes you won't be able to. And you want to be able to control attacks against these characters, specifically Peacekeeper. Sophia's brought into the game to counter the guy. There's no point letting him taunt attacks into him so that she just gets wiped out with a basic attack with the bide. So you just don't want that to happen. Now next up is the bottom left hand corner, and this is actually quite a difficult one to pick. I have heard that apparently burn on attack can work with the signature move. I did test it out myself, but I couldn't get it to work. But if it somehow works for you, that could potentially be a decent one. But do remember, the majority of these aren't going to actually work. For instance, like AP Drain won't work because it can't proc on her signature move, can't proc on her rush. Bleed shouldn't work, burn shouldn't work. So there's so many that won't work. What I did try and use was attack while impaired. This would mean that her basic attacks and signature moves would do really, really high damage because she's going to get attack boosted. She won't be able to rush, but at least they'll be able to get bonus damage if she does get controlled by impair, which isn't super prevalent. She can't obviously proc tough weapons, but there are a couple of characters that can just randomly impair you, like Wang Fa, Lead, Kyle, like I said before. However, if you have a better idea for this bottom left-hand corner mod, do let me know. You could probably go for attack while taunted and then remove the taunt resist if you could somehow work focus into your team. That wouldn't be bad at all. Now the last mod is the only real mod where it's up for debate on what you want to go for. I would generally say a secondary attack versus is the way to go. You could go for crit multiplier, but it's only going to work with basic attacks. You could go for crit chance, but it's only going to work for basic attacks. You can maybe go for a bit of survivability to get her HP up if you so wish. If we look, her stats are not super high in that case, so that might not be a terrible idea. But I'm going to go with attack versus fast, because the other issues that she's going to face is potentially Jesus, and this is where she's going to do amplified damage against him as a vengeance character. She's already got bonus damage against Peacekeeper because she is fast, and then now she's going to be doing bonus damage against Alert because of the mod I've got on her. Only trait she's not going to do bonus damage against is Strong, and at the moment I'd say Strong is the weakest of the 4 traits on defense, so that isn't a terrible thing in any case. So we're going to lock in these mods, and we're going to just check out her stats now, and she goes up to 56,000 base attack, which is actually pretty decent. You know, she's not getting any boost from weapons at this point or leader skill, and she doesn't get any boost in her kit, you know, like some characters do when it comes to flat stats and so on and so forth. So this isn't too bad a start when it comes to just her mods. Now we have Sophia in a team, and when it comes to actually equipping her with a weapon, one thing to note is the third slot in a lot of these weapons do not actually proc on her. For instance, the weapon that I've seen a lot of people talk about are weapons that have the bonus attack when, you know, the enemy has a certain amount of HP. These cannot actually proc because it says when attacking enemies, and you're not attacking enemies with her rush, you're not attacking enemies with her signature move, you're dealing damage. And that's why you're getting the bonuses of no weapons proccing on the defense team, but it also means on the attack team too. So in this third slot, you would want something that is based on her getting takedowns. For instance, you know, if she gets a kill, she'll get a bonus somehow, if there is a weapon like that that comes along, or weapons that are going to give like beginning of the wave bonuses, like 8% weapons or 20% weapons to self. Like the weapon I primarily use on her is this right here, and you can get this from the 4-star weapon wheel, and she will receive 20% of her max AP at the beginning of each wave. And this will help if she comes up against just one medic on a defense team and she does her signature move. She'll be able to get a full adrenaline rush off of turn 1, even if she doesn't get a takedown, where you can command her that turn or wait till turn 2 naturally to rush. Or if you have this weapon and an 8% weapon on the team as well, and a medic on the enemy team, because of her passives where she gets the AP bonus, you could have Laura just defend instantly and give her a rush straight away. There's a lot of bonuses to having this 20% AP weapon to self. Obviously 1535, mainly the 15 part of it, is going to be the good part because it's going to give her attack boost and the 45% attack as well. You could potentially build a weapon like this without actually upgrading the second slot and giving her an extra 5% attack, because she isn't going to be doing basic attacks very often at all. So I say that's a good weapon to put in her hands, and as you can see, she's gone up to 83,000 attack stat now, which is, again, pretty decent. And we're going to add just a basic attack leader that I think a lot of people have got on their roster, like Trader, and you'll see it get boosted even more. So now she's up to 116,003 attack stat, and she wouldn't even need another character next to her with a 1535 weapon for her to be extremely powerful, just because of the passive boost she's going to be getting. She's going to be getting attack boost against teams with medics. She's going to be getting attack boost when she does her adrenaline rush because of that bonus HP. So it's going to be very, very significant indeed. I personally have Raven next to her in one of my teams, and Raven doesn't have a 1535. She only takes bonuses from Sophia. She doesn't give any bonuses to her, and Sophia does absolutely fine. And here is the attack team I've been using, and it's been working very nicely indeed. I think some of the more free-to-play options in Raven's slot that you could potentially use would be like Easter Eva, and she would have a 1535 weapon in her hands potentially if you want to, look at my guide for her just to see how I built her and see how she works. Or you could go for a more control-based character that does less damage. Sophia does so much by herself, you don't necessarily need another damage dealer. You could go for someone like Holiday Heroes Carl, and he'd actually give an attack boost to Thanksgiving Sophia regardless of the enemies that you came up against. Okay, so we're going to come up against a reasonably common team, which we see in a lot of fights, honestly. And what we're going to do is we're just going to use Sophia. We're not going to use Raven at all. I'm just going to defend with her just so I'm not doing any damage with her. We want to utilize Sophia mainly. Now you can see she's getting an 100% attack boost because I'm coming up against 2 medics. This is absolutely immense. They have bonus HP as well, as you can see, so I can probably take them out or do significant damage to them just based on that. As you can see, pretty decent damage, nearly 100k on the signature move. Now in this case I didn't get a takedown, which is absolutely fine. Because I've got a 20% weapon, I've got a natural rush for turn 2. However, what I can do on turn 1 instead is I can rush a character that's tough and weaker. Someone like Vance, for instance, who's got a much better chance of giving me the rush. I just have to control him off of turn 1 so he doesn't do his adrenaline rush. As you can see, much higher damage and against a character with much less HP. Now, a tactic I can do here is I could rush the bottom line. There's no risk of Vance obviously reviving those characters if I take them down. However, will I be able to take out Jesus and Rick before Vance comes back on the turn after with his Halo? Maybe not. Maybe I will because of other characters. But what a tactic you can use is you can defend with Sophia on turn 1. And if she's got her adrenaline rush at the beginning of turn 2, that means she can rush twice if she gets a takedown with the first adrenaline rush. If I was to do an adrenaline rush here on turn 1, I'd have to somehow get enough AP or get a takedown with a basic attack on turn 2. Much more risky. I used to do this a lot with Kenny. And then obviously I can just do some normal attacks. And we can hope that we don't get too many people controlled here. As we did have some taunts come in. This is why I have taunt resist against these sort of teams. Now I can decide to do, let's say, a normalize here. And we'll attack the top line afterwards. But I rush the bottom line. And we're going to take them both down. We get 1 payback, but because obviously of the Guardian Shield from the Adrenaline Rush. Then we can rush the top line. Take him out. And then we can just do some buffs here on the remaining characters. And if you've got a damage dealer here, I could do the rush. I could do a signature move of Raven, but we're just going to say worst case scenario, whatever reason, we don't take down this character. It's not a terrible thing. It's not a terrible thing. Because we can do the signature move here. Get some more damage in. And then we control him. And we can finish him off with the remaining hits. This is obviously one of the slowest ways you can do things, but it's still pretty decent. Now, these were very limited examples of attacks because I'm limited to who I can find in my region. If you want to see me use this team against a very varied amount of teams in War, you can check it out on my War stream, which should be linked in the top right-hand corner. I am using Raven in those clips, obviously. I'm not going to be holding back in those clips. But obviously, whatever damage dealer or whatever support character you have in there instead is going to be just as useful if you have the right setup, if you have the right mods on Sophia and the other characters involved. So that's just my little starter guide on Thanksgiving Sophia. I think this is a really good starting block. It will get you like 90% of the way there. The bottom right hand corner on the resist mod is the only one that you might have to change up from time to time based on whatever is on the meta defenses. There potentially could become bigger issues with days, and her signature move is very, very important. So, that's going to be important. Exhaust could also become a big thing, but lining up with a character like Dale is going to be very useful indeed. But he can only do it to one, teammate, so potentially you might have to use exhaust resist on some characters too. Is it worth dropping one of the attack versus? It really depends on what's meta in the future. But at the moment, having attack versus alert and attack versus fast, and naturally because she's a fast character with attack versus tough, is the best trio in my opinion. If you have any thoughts on, changing up how Sophia is built, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I might try it out for a future stream or war stream, just see how useful it is. But otherwise, I hope this is useful for you. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep on surviving, guys. Keep on surviving.